This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, so we're sort of jumping around. We started in the first segment. We spoke about the tremendous Zehiros that Reb Chaim Vital warned his Talmidim not to spread the Kabbala, and we learned how he confiscated all the writings. That was the first year. The second year we spoke about the Cherem, that the Chachmei Eretz Yisrael and the Chachmei Tzfas were machrim not to spread the wisdom beyond the confines of Eretz Yisrael. And then this morning we discussed the story of the 600 manuscripts, which sort of escaped from the first Madura of Reb Chaim Vital. In other words, from Reb Chaim Vital's very first Madura, when he was sick for a year, they got a hold of some earlier manuscripts of the first Madura, and they copied over these 600 pages, and that spread to Eretz Yisrael. So now we're coming back to, this is after the death of Reb Chaim Vital, and already in the times of the Shla HaKadosh, we were reading a letter that he wrote that on page Pehei in the Kisvuni L'Dairos, he spoke about the Cherem Kadmoin from all the Chacham of Eretz Yisrael not to reveal from the Chachma the Arizal to Chutz Haaretz, and whoever did bring it to Chutz Haaretz was a Ganav and sort of violating the Cherem. And the Shla continues. I'm going to read to you a little bit from page Pehei. And if you want to see, actually here, you could take this is the end of page Pehei, you'll see what I'm reading from. After the bold text, the Tamam v'nimukam haya, the logic of the sages of Israel was, Sha'al yishalal hamasal b'chachmas hari. One should not gloat in the wisdom of the Ari, sheyarad l'soif daitai, be'etzem ha'chachma b'yediyah brura. One should not gloat that one has plummeted the soif das of the etzem hachachma of the Ari. Meaning, don't think you ever chap and understand what the Ari means. Ki lo yesh nimtza ba'olam lo b'chutz lo b'eretz Yisrael. Nobody really does. Ve'ininu ki hayela rab zal harbe talmidim. The Ari had many talmidim, tzadikim, chazim kedoshim. But lo yardu soif das rabam al baram. Now on page Pevav, nobody really understood fully what the Arizal meant. Gam loy talmidai amov Reb Chaim Kalbriz, Ashem Nuchaz Kalbriz b'Damesek, even one of his great talmidim. Zel likihim amala makim harav zal, v'hu lo haya megala chachma l'shem adam. Who's Reb Chaim Kalbriz? It's Reb Chaim Vital. Where's Reb Chaim Vital buried? In Damascus. If you want to go on a field trip there to Mekaymes HaKadoshim in Damascus, I'm not sure that's a... No, you're not in?
I'm not.
You're not joining? You know?
Not this week.
He made a chibur. It sounds like that the Shlos Sayun of Chaim Vital perhaps was not completely oimed and toifes with the words Ari. Rak asa chibur muflag nikra Eitz Chaim. When Reb Chaim Vital died, he said nobody could copy over the Eitz Chaim. Maybe next time we'll speak about the Reb Chaim Vital wrote many other Svarim, and all those Svarim he buried. And we're going to talk about how those were revealed. So they're different, watershed moments, we learned this morning of the 600 pages. But he said nobody could copy it. If anyone wants to come to his house, he invites people to his house to learn his Sefer. It says the Shla, I was passing through Damascus, happened to be passing through, and I passed by the house of Chaim Vital, and his son brought me in, and he gave me the Sefer, and it was very hard to read. Ki hayek sav Sfardi. It was a Sfardi script. Sfardi script, forget it. Can't read it. But says the Shla, Aval da miyom shenitna atar lahi Sefer kazah. From the day the Torah was given, there never was a Sefer like the Sefer Eitz Chaim. And he writes in the Hakdama, and he warns, for the sake of Emunah B'Hashem, that all these kuntresim that were spread in most of the world from the Ari, watch out! What's written, b'masha koisem me'etzem ha'chachma, unless these are obvious pshatim, sweet pshatim, you want to say a little vart that Arizal said, fine. But other than that, do not watch out from it. I was only in Damascus for 2 days. Says the Shla, after those 2 days, I had to take my caravan was going. I needed to go. Uvesefer hahu mivu eres hachachma piyas seder. In that holy book, Eitz Chaim, this wisdom is explained in order, Rashi Prakim, with chapter headings, Ayin lo'irasa lekim zulasecha, Uchshehaviani Hashem Yerushalayim HaKodesh, when God brought me to Jerusalem, Tibana v'sikaynei mimher v'yameinu, va'ani koisef u'mesave l'zois ha'chachma. I yearned and desired this wisdom. V'yesh b'kan harbe chachamim gedolim. There are many great sages here. U'lekulam yesh kunshus shenaspashu mitalmidav. So basically the Shlosh says, when I got to Israel, there are many great sages in Israel, and like each sage has his own version of what Reb Chaim Vital was disseminating. And in many areas they argue. Not only that, some of the stuff that they have in their notebooks is just plain destructive and wrong. But based on our small and feeble minds, we have some inkling and understanding from it. But chas v'shalom to publish it, because maybe it's not accurate, maybe it's a mishka, like what's happened earlier in our history. But we hope to the Ribbanu Shalom, ad sheyizgala lanu sefer hakadosh Eloki hanal ki l'chol zman ve'es l'chol chifetz. Says the Shla, in Israel, many people have their own editions of it. But the official edition of Reb Chaim Vital has not come out because that's in Damascus and we're not to copy it. Ubayam Yizakeni Hakel Kasher Kavi Kavisi Azvada Yutar Haneder Dahainu Hachirim Hakadam. Meaning, if God gives me the merit like I hope, then the neder will become mutter. And then I'll give a haskama to Mizak the Rabbim. Meaning, if one day we're able to be mater the neder, then I'll be happy to teach you some of this wisdom. The Shla. But basically what we see from here. So again, what year was Arizal Nifter? 1572. And there was very strict warnings for 15 years until 1587. But from here we see, says Rabbi Yaakov Hillel, we see the matzav of the writings and the revelation of Chachma from the Petira Dari, which was in the year Shin Lamed Hey. Now, Shin Lamed Hey is the year 1575. Even though we said earlier that what year did the Arizal pass away? 72, so I'm not sure how those dates fit together. And until the year of the P'tira of Reb Chaim Vital, which is in the year Shin Pei Hei. Shin Pei Hei is 1625. Okay, so that's 50 years. 1575 to 1625. Around this. Now, V'davar Yaduhu, it is well known. Ki b'higia is shama hachachman arav akdosh esgil ari b'karav talmidav v'tzvas la'arotzos Ashkenaz. It is well known that when the wisdom of the Ari reached Germany, Italy and Italy, Italia befrat, especially Italy, v'shar harotzos b'chlal, and all the other lands, nis'oiru rabim gam shem v'rov tshuko v'kisum l'chibas hakodesh l'chapesu l'hasig shem etzmineu. When the word spread that the Arizal was teaching this new discipline, it engendered a great desire in people to learn it. And they wrote to the sages of Israel with requests and supplications to be zoicha to the Kisvei Kabbala that was revealed among them. But this Cherem was successful in, so to speak, slowing down the spread of Kabbala until approximately the year 1620. So basically, from the death of the Arizal, which was 1572 or 1575, until the death of Reb Chaim Vital 1625, the state of Kabbala was very limited. The Cherem was successful in keeping it at bay until about the year 1620. Ula me'oz ve'elach, from the year 1620 and on, his chilu l'spashe ma'ara takim shenim mishunim shaksam mechazan ari, the writings of Ari spread over frat la'arotzes hashemos of Italia, especially Germany and Italy. The Yeser Mizeh, and even more in the time of the Rit Semach and the Ran Shapira and the Ram Paparish and Ramosha Zakuto. Then his Chilul Agia Game Aksama Yosem Muskamim. You see, at first the writings that spread were from that original Madura of Reb Chaim Vital, so it wasn't really accurate information. But then later on, some of the more authoritative editions began to spread. Okay, and it was very attainable. Now we're up to the year 1620. Now we're going to go to the year 1640 to 1740. That was like the industrial revolution of the Kabbala. 1640 to 1740. V'nei Mishnois Hey Taf ad Taf Kuf. From the year 1640 to 1740, Hispashtu ma'oid kisvei ari ba'olam, v'limudam ha'idei g'dolei yisrael ruyim eileim, shemehem hayukama mechabrim gedom. For some, there are many well-known sages, ulam zel umazeg, as many as there were of authoritative sages learning in Kabbalah, to that extent there were con artists and phonies. In other words, as the true Kabbalah spread, so did the facade of the Kabbalah and the fake version of the Kabbalah. And you had many charlatans, lidroish, people who were chachmei erev rav, gam erev rav Allah imam, the herba bilti ru'uyim, kavtzu lidroish b'markava shalai kedin. And many tragedies arose from it. Of course, the primary one, which was directly influenced from the spread of Kabbalah, was Shabtai Tzvi. So, as many true and great Mekubama as there were, but it also posed a tremendous danger for Klal Yisrael. Laharois choymes hadas uliyavish mayin ha'amuna tzrufach yadua mimasei hatzvi hashavor Shabtai Tzvi v'anachosh ma'akram v'neshach ma'akrav, and all the snakes and scorpions that were drawn after him, leve'er shachas. So, the Kabbalah, really, the Ari and the Kabbalah is probably the watershed and the turning, one of the seminal moments in Jewish history in terms of what Judaism looks like today, in terms of in the aftermath of Sabbatianism, the Hasidic movement. This was all direct result of the proliferation of Kabbalah. Hasidus is basically spreading the Kabbalistic practice to the multitude. This is all a direct result of Kabbalah, and just historically, the person has to know that at first the Kabbalah spread unauthorized, without the consent of Chaim Vital. Rav Shlomo Shlomiel calls it Chastei Hashem. But the original manuscripts were not necessarily authoritative manuscripts. And later on, more authoritative Maduras arose, and at the same time, Zel Umazeh, you also had dangers and charlatans. Now we know why Reb Chaim Vital was so circumspect and so careful and warned so harshly that this information should not be spread, because this information is very dangerous to the uninitiated. As ennobling as it is to the initiated, it is also equally dangerous to the uninitiated. Shekol kach chashash mehispashas v'gilui achacham b'la'esav lo mitzarim. And despite all the restrictions and all the fences and all the warnings that he added with great toisefes, more than the Rishonim did, but ad etzem hayoim hazeh, we still suffer today from the unwarranted violation of the spread of Kabbalah to those who are not ready. Okay, hopefully we'll do maybe a couple more on this, because we learned about how the Kabbalah spread from the Madura Kamar of Reb Chaim Vital. But I want to speak a little bit about other editions of Reb Chaim Vital that he did not want to be spread and he buried, and how those were unearthed. Okay? Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.